I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and today we're going to hear another seminar from one of our dean candidates, and our speaker today is Dr. James W. Lloyd. He did his bachelor's degree at Michigan State University. He did stayed on at Michigan State and did a veterinary degree. After a couple years in private practice, he came back to Michigan State as a resident and instructor in the veterinary school and also did a PhD. He then joined the faculty and eventually rose to the rank of full professor at the veterinary school there too. In 1998, he added to his duties by becoming assistant to the dean for practice management. And in 2005, became the director of the Office of Strategy and Innovation in the College of Veterinary Medicine at Michigan State. And then finally, from 2007 to the present time, he served as the Associate Dean for Budget, Planning, and Institutional Research at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Michigan State University too. So we're very happy to have Dr. Lloyd here too. I'd like to welcome him to Gainesville, the University of Florida, and turn the podium over to Dr. Lloyd. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Nice to see so many people turn out. Usually, I get 3 or 4 people turn out for my seminars, and so it's great to have a crowd to talk to. So it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to have been selected by the search committee to come to this stage. I'm proud to be a finalist. You guys have a great institution. Many of you I know because I've worked with before in different capacities and have been here before, so it's just a pleasure to be back. Just want to have a conversation today, and so hard for me to have an informal conversation with all these eyes just kind of looking at me, waiting to hear what I've got to say, but let's just kind of keep it that way. If you've got some questions, some comments or something, I'm sure we have a time at the end for them. If you've got something that's really burning, don't hesitate, or if you want to just throw something my way, you can do that as well, all right? So my title, this was the most difficult part of preparing this seminar for me. What do you put on this for a title? So this is my title, Creating Our Future. And really it all begins here. And also for veterinary medicine, it all starts here. And, if I get this to work. Okay, while we're talking about that, so what I want to do is just give you a little background. A little background on me, a little bit of insight as to what I think the future of veterinary medicine looks like. Talk about how I see that aligning with the College of Veterinary Medicine here at the University of Florida. How then my leadership experiences and strengths align with the leadership attributes that I think are vital for leading an institution like this in the future. Okay, very good. Sorry, I must have messed that up. So, try it again. Here we go. All right. So this is what I told you I might do. I'll do a little background, this background on me, so you know who I am, a little context. If you're thinking about me as your leader, as a dean in the college, it's important to know where I am and what makes me work a little bit, what makes me tick. My vision for the future, we'll talk about that, of veterinary medicine and academic veterinary medicine, alignment of that vision with the University of Florida in your College of Veterinary Medicine. Some key leadership attributes, both what I think are important to lead a college like this into the future, and the key leadership attributes that I see that I have that would match up, and then a short summary. All right, so background. I'm thinking, okay, what is this? This is where it starts. And so does it start with an old photo of a couple of guys on workhorses and things? Well, it kind of does for me. This photo was taken a mile and a half from where I was raised. The guy on the left horse, this is my dad. This is his brother. And this tells you a little bit about my background. Okay, this is the farming community I was raised in. And this is Peggy and Polly. Peggy's the roan and Polly's the bay. Right? The other thing I did is I tried some new technology. Let's see if that works. Look at there. That's as fancy as it gets, though. Okay. So you know what? I'd take some applause for that. All right. So you see the origins. I'm from a small town. I grew up on a farm. We had dogs and cats as pets. We had horses, cattle. Worked for a guy who had sheep. All my neighbors and family had dairy cattle, beef cattle, you name it. And so that's the community that I'm from. Animals have been important to me from the start, as you can tell from that context. And in the community where I was raised, animals were also a primary source of financial well-being, of income, of sustenance. And so I developed early on this interest in economics, all right, and in economics and how animal populations have economic dimensions, right? My undergraduate degree, then when I went to college, I actually studied about animals, but it was about wildlife biology, all right? I studied primarily with an emphasis on wildlife biology, but ecology, comparative zoology, and management of those wildlife populations for the benefit of society and the benefit of people. Early on then, think about that, the context that I came from, this small agricultural community, I developed an interest early on in this whole interface between agriculture and wildlife and the environment. Okay? I went on to veterinary medicine, where in vet school I did a broad-based training. I prepared for a career in mixed animal practice. But because this whole business thing, this economic thing was a theme that had kind of been planted and was kind of growing in me, as we went through veterinary school, there were some things that, as I got there were a couple things. I thought, well, we're all going to be running, most of us who end up in practice, going to be running businesses when we leave. We don't talk about business here. The other thing is, as a large animal practitioner and in the community that I come from, everything that we do with the livestock populations really impacts the livelihood of the farm and of the family that draws their sustenance from that farm. And so there's this piece that was missing, the missing link for me. Had a small business class as an elective from Dr. Jack Judy. Anybody here remember Dr. Judy? Yeah, okay, Dr. Judy taught us. And to me, that was, okay, here's the missing piece. I really got interested in business. And so before I left veterinary school, I actually took the Graduate Management Admissions Test, the GMAT, the GRE equivalent for business school back in those days, with the intent of actually doing an MBA when I went to practice. I graduated from veterinary school, went into a mixed practice, and at that time, the first practice I went to, it was a very busy, very active practice, did mostly dairy, cattle, and horses, but really, because it was so busy, didn't have enough time to pursue this MBA, so I changed practices, went to a two-person practice, and from there, had time, I thought, to pursue an MBA, was enrolled in an MBA, was going to class 2 nights a week, but in this two-person practice, those of you who've been there, on call every other night, every other weekend, in the classroom 2 nights a week, had a small family at the time, somehow didn't all add up. I had a chance to go back to the university and actually work as an instructor in the ambulatory section, and at that time to pursue my graduate degree, and so I did. I thought, well, when I get there, I'm going to get my MBA, and I'm going to be gone. This academic thing is really a short stint for me here. Well, at the end of in the middle of that, I kind of, for a number of reasons, ended up my interest evolved from the business school to the Ag Econ department. I developed an interest in research, so I did my PhD in the Ag Econ department, actually, at Michigan State. And when I finished that, I had a chance to stay on the faculty. So from the start, I did. I stayed on the faculty, and I was jointly appointed between the College of Veterinary Medicine and the College of Agriculture. In the Large Animal Clinical Science department on the vet school side, in the Ag Economics department on the vet school side, or I'm sorry, on the agriculture side. So when I joined the faculty, my whole interest at that time was how to bring the disciplines of economics, business, and management to veterinary medicine. What can I do in this interdisciplinary, cross-cultural almost, if you will, mode to add strengths, to bring some unique value. And so I started out in the faculty role as having a strong research component to my appointment. Okay? Worked with the epidemiologists, worked with the epidemiology of animal health, worked because of the quantitative skills I had, worked in the research design projects, worked with the clinicians in that regard. And so that was early on, and had some success in that. And even in grantsmanship, think about that though, and think, well, where did you get your grants? Well, my grants were little, and they were from a lot of different places. I had some from USDA, from competitive sources, but I had some from foundations, some from industry, some from government, and so it was from agencies. And so it was think about the investigation of the economics of animal health management, and where do those research funds come from? Well, it isn't really a traditionally NIH, NSF kind of funded research. And so regardless, it had some success there, but as I grew in the faculty role, had a chance then to start doing some administrative things. I developed some teaching programs and developed actually our practice-based ambulatory program and led that. That was one innovation in teaching. I had some other innovations in teaching that I had when I started teaching practice management then later in my career. Evolved from the practice-based ambulatory to actually the assistant to the dean position that you heard about. And in that regard, had responsibility for strategic planning for the college and for the teaching hospital, for business analysis in the teaching hospital, and really for some market research. Started then to think about who are our customers. Our customers are our referring veterinarians, our animal owners, and our students. Okay? And how do we know how we're doing without doing market research? So we started to develop some tools at that time to really ask the question, how are we doing with our customers? Okay? From that position, things kept growing, I kept moving. It got a chance to actually be director of the Office of Strategy and Innovation. This was under Dean Lonnie King. A lot of you know Dean King. We just finished a broad strategic planning exercise at the college, and we had all these strategic initiatives across the board. And the strategic initiatives needed to have some follow-up. And so he appointed me as director of this office so that we could wade into each of these individual strategic priorities across the college and lead the team that's going to develop the action plans and the operations to follow up and see to it that we make some progress in each of these. And just so you get an idea, the strategic objectives were across the board, from research to the teaching hospital and the business models there, to the teaching in the classroom and the work that we do there, to diversity and inclusion. All right. And so again, in every one of these areas, I was asked and did lead the team, put together the team, identify some objectives and plans to work toward. After that, my role evolved even further, and under Dean Chris Brown's leadership, I've been appointed as Associate Dean for Budget, Planning, and Institutional Research. Since Dean Brown has been at Michigan State. You might think, well, what is that? Budget makes sense. Okay. Planning kind of makes sense. Institutional research, well, I think of this really as my responsibility is to bring the disciplines of business to the administration of the college. All right? And so I started with planning. I think that my responsibility is to lead the development of strategy, to identify those areas in the college, to lead those conversations so we can identify those areas where we have strategic priorities, where our strengths are, or where we want to have a strength and there's a gap today. Something that's important to us as a college, as a culture, as a community, where we want to grow, to identify those areas across the college, and my responsibility to lead those discussions and define those directions. Okay? The next part of this then is to lead the implementation. Again, let's look at what kind of team do we need around each of those strategic objectives. Some of them are pretty natural. We've got an associate dean for research, and he leads the research emphasis. But I work with him to look at where and how do we actually fund these initiatives because of my responsibility with budget. The other initiatives, again, whether the team is there or not, build the team, look for implementation, and then align budget with those priorities so that we keep moving forward in the directions that we think are important as a community, that we've defined as a community together, and then to align budget with those so that we can continue to make progress. And the last, the institutional research, is really an accountability piece. How are we doing? Okay, did we make progress in these areas or not? What have we done to make a difference? Okay, how do we measure that? How can we demonstrate that? In that, interestingly enough, is our outcomes assessment. Okay? And so my responsibility, and those of you who are familiar with the accreditation process or the AMA Council on Education, there's this whole standard that you need to assess your outcomes, to know how you're doing. So it's been my responsibility to develop a system for measuring, assessing, tracking our outcomes in the process. And by the way, we just successfully did our site visit in April and just received the final word that we've got a 7 years accreditation. So that was a big job. So anyhow, that's kind of the background on me and how I got to where I am. It's a journey of continual improvement, if you will, continual growth on my part as a professional, taking what I've done, enjoying what I've done, learning as much about it as I can, and then moving on to the next step in my career. Vision for the future. First thing I want to ask is whose vision? I want to pose that question because I want you to know that what you're going to see on the slide and hear from me is my vision, and I'm going to own that, okay? And I understand that this may or may not be entirely appropriate for a college like yours, okay? Important as a leader to develop a shared vision. So really, as it comes to the dean's role, it seems to me that the dean's role is to engage with the faculty, staff, students, alumni, develop the vision, develop a shared vision for the college, okay? What you see is my thoughts today, okay? And this is, and I'm be honest and open and transparent with them so you know where I am today, all right? But that doesn't mean that there's any of this that necessarily works or doesn't work, for that matter. But I want to give that disclaimer because I realize that to have a shared vision really means that the people that you work with, the organization needs to buy in. So this is my view. So first of all, first bullet on this is biomedical sciences. All right. My vision is that because of our, and it's going to maybe sound like jargon, but our singular grasp of comparative medicine, veterinary medicine needs to be, and in my vision is, at the front of development in One Health and in comparative medicine in the future. This means we have a strong basis in biomedical research, provides a foundation for who we are as a profession, okay? So we're doing that in areas that are familiar to us, in pathology, in physiology, in anatomy, okay? But we're also doing it collaboratively in basic and translational biomedical research, okay? Second on the slide is clinical sciences. While the basic biomedical sciences provide the foundation for who we are, after all, veterinarians. We're clinicians as a profession, okay? So the clinical sciences are an equally vital part of my vision for the future. And when I think about this, my vision says that we're cutting-edge clinical scientists and cutting-edge practitioners, okay? And in the clinical scientist part, that means that, again, we're doing research there, we're developing new methods, we're testing new methods, and we're also widely respected, though, in the practice arena as clinicians, as practitioners. My vision says that this is occurring across species and in companion animal species. My vision sees a growing and strong demand, or strong and growing demand, for companion animal services. In our society, and that growing and strong demand, it has a number of different dimensions. It's in preventive medicine, it's in therapeutic and curative services and specializations, but most of you have heard of this talk about declining visits, okay, and why are people not coming to the veterinarians as much anymore? If you want to talk more about that, I can talk about that one for a long time in and of itself. But, you know, to me, this declining visits presents an opportunity for us. We need to just figure out what it is and how to turn that more around. And it's an opportunity for growth, actually, in companion animal. In the equine side, we see an evolving demand. At least, certainly in Michigan, we see an evolving demand. The recent economy has just really tanked our racehorse industry. I'm not sure what the impact has been in Florida, but it's changed the demand for our services. But nonetheless, we're looking more and more at the horse as an athlete and looking at the sports medicine, all right? There sure is the herd management dimension in equine practice as well, with emphasis on infectious disease, reproduction, and nutrition. But I see a strong core of equine practice as we go into the future as well. Food systems medicine, again, an evolving demand as the structure of livestock agriculture changes across the country, and as our consumer demands change. There always has been, always will be, demand for individual animal skills in medicine, in practice, but that's an evolving demand, all right? It does still provide the foundation for the production medicine, the herd level work that we do. But I see food systems, veterinary medicine evolving and growing, and including aspects of public health, food safety, and animal welfare, in fact. Not to leave out, when I talk about across species, there's the laboratory animal aspects. I see an opportunity to grow there as our research enterprises grow. We need to have a veterinary input there, a veterinary component in lab animal care. Exotics and wildlife species, the same, growing strong and growing demand for our services across species. So the clinical sciences I see as a big part of our future. Specifically, when we drill down, there's a little overlap here, but I think that we've got a strong future in environmental and ecosystem health as well. This is maybe for Florida not a new concept, but for a lot of veterinary medicine it is. And think about the environment, think about how veterinarians relate to this whole dimension, environmental ecosystem health. Whether we are, as professionals, developing animal models to study environmental health, or whether we're using animals and developing animals as sentinels for environmental quality, whether it's air or water quality, whether we're using and providing input in the teams that manage wildlife health, okay, and manage disease in wildlife populations. And finally, in this one, I think we bring, especially from the epidemiological standpoint, a great potential input into this team approach for environmental ecosystem health, where we can help with our epidemiological models in monitoring and surveillance of disease. Closely related to that, and I mentioned epidemiology, is a nice lead into public health. And to me, there's some overlap here for sure. But public health, I see in my view of the future, veterinary medicine having a growing role in public health, global reach in the area of public health, with emphasis in areas such as food safety, biosecurity, emerging diseases, and again, in the area of environmental health. I mentioned a few minutes ago animal welfare as being maybe an increasingly important part of at least animal food systems practice. In my vision of the future, I see veterinary medicine as gaining or regaining a leadership role in the dialogue around animal welfare. Okay, I think that's something we need to do as a profession, and I think that's imperative. And so, I see this leadership role in animal welfare being, again, something that's cross species boundaries. In companion animal health, it relates to shelter medicine. It relates to things like our specialty practice. And for instance, in answer to the question, how long should we treat this cancer patient? When is it that we're actually doing the treatment for our own or our client's benefit? And when does it exceed the bounds of improving the welfare of the animal? Okay? Those kinds of questions I think will be important as we move forward. Certainly back across species, thinking about the equine species and all the things that go on there about the equine as an athlete and soaring, and those discussions that are going on nationally. Food animal welfare, as well as I do, that many of the corporate food chains out there nowadays are looking at how we raise and how we care for these animals, and being able to use that as a part of their marketing strategy. And so increasingly important in those production systems. And lab animal, exotic lab animal, research is vital to our future as a society. Research is vital, and the use of animals in research, while we want to minimize that whenever we can, there still is research, and probably always will be, that will involve animals, all right? It's important that those laboratory animals have the best welfare as possible too. So I see, again, in my view, my vision for the future, I see veterinary medicine having this leadership role and being viewed as experts, and both the experts on a basis of science, both the experts and the stewards of animal welfare. Next bullet on my slide is veterinary technology. You think, well, what's that all about? Well, some of you might know that we have a veterinary technology program at Michigan State, but it really brings me to the point of a dialogue we've been having there that I think is a much broader dialogue that we will need to have as a profession. I see the role of the veterinary technologist, veterinary technician, changing, growing, new career pathways, new ways to participate in the delivery of veterinary medical services, and in that regard having perhaps much broader reach as a profession. There are some things that are under discussion there that I think need to be discussed related to specialization, okay, within the veterinary technology fields. in not only clinical specialties, but areas such as perhaps a specialty in the area of practice management, and some career pathways there. So I see some great growth there and some opportunities. This bullet, in my vision of the future, veterinary medicine, instead of being the least diverse of any of the healthcare professions as we are today, veterinary medicine achieves a diversity and inclusion that matches the society we serve. Okay. This is one that is one I'm pretty passionate about. It's one that I feel strongly that we need to get there. If we don't reflect the society we serve, how are we going to anticipate the needs? How are we going to meet the needs of the peoples and the communities and the cultures? Our diversity needs to reflect the communities we serve in terms of age, gender identity, race and ethnicity, ability, sexual orientation, religion, and socioeconomics. Okay? All those dimensions of diversity. And each one has its own peculiar challenges for us to reach. But again, as notably the least diverse of any of the healthcare professions, we've got some distance to make up. And this diversity then would also span not just all the dimensions of diversity I mentioned, but it also will span geography and career pathways. The last thing on the slide talks about new educational models. My view of the future for academic veterinary medicine, some of that is tied up as far as the research and service in the earlier bullets. But the other thing is we were going to have some new educational models. My vision isn't clear on what those will look like. I think there'll be a whole host of different educational models, and some of those we see starting to be developed and test-driven today. Right? Some of those will involve distance education, increasingly will, and maybe must involve distance education. Some might, this might be blasphemy, some might involve actually an extended curriculum. Right? You think an extended curriculum, why would we do that? Well, in some sense, in some context, an extended curriculum might make sense for working adults who want to come back to school, or for people who come part-time, they can work and finish vet school and maybe pay for it as they go. Flip side of that is we're probably going to see some compacted curriculum. Instead of 4 years pre-vet and 4 years veterinary school, we all know the European model is 5 or 6 years. We'll see perhaps more and more schools going to a model like that and trying that. We'll see probably more use of distributed clinics. Okay? We have a couple of those models in place now. Western, the new veterinary school in Calgary, and thinking about the distributed model as opposed to something as beautiful as the teaching hospital that we're in, or a combination of the two. Primarily, perhaps, the distributed model is a hybrid, so we can get achieve the goals that we want to in terms of primary care and experience there. And the other thing that I see in education models is that we need to continue to create and look for creative methods of funding our education in the future. All right, we've all been in some interesting times financially, economically. In the last several years, Michigan and Florida, I think, have led the curve there as far as, for better or worse. And so the challenges you faced and lived through, similar to the challenges we faced and lived through in Michigan, and you know the challenges are going to be there into the future. So how do we fund these educational models in the future? And I don't have the answer today, but I think we're going to see some innovative models, and I think it's time to have those discussions. The next section is going to talk about alignment with your college, okay? And again, a disclaimer before we dive into this, this is my perception from a distance. My perception of your college from what I know of the people that work here, from the experiences I've had having worked here before with you in a couple of limited capacities, from the people that I know here, and from I've learned from your website and all that, but I acknowledge it in order to know your school and know the programs here, it's difficult to do that as an outsider. So what you'll get is my first look at that today. First of all, how does all this align with the strengths? Well, first of all, this college of veterinary medicine is at the University of Florida. I mean, hello, you guys all know that, right? But the University of Florida is in itself a great resource. It's tradition, okay, and the reputation it has, not just across the country but around the world. It is something that's a fundamental strength that you have going for you here. It's something that I'm sure you appreciate. Sometimes I'm sure you come to work and you don't think about that on a daily basis. But it is a strength as I look at this from the outside. The next alignment is in a strength that you have is in the faculty, staff, students, and alumni, and a growing alumni base that you have. To me, again, you heard me early on say that the whole shared vision thing is about developing that shared vision with the people here at the college, and it is about the strengths that you have and the notable strengths across the board. And this is, to me, your most noteworthy resource is the people that work here. I couldn't go too far down the list in talking about alignment with what you have here without talking about your veterinary hospitals, especially in the facility that we're in. Okay, you've got this fantastic facility here and a fantastic and growing reputation for your companion animal practice. You've got a fantastic reputation for the large animal practice. You've got a new initiative in Ocala. This, for that clinical scientist side of my vision of the future, provides really a very strong comparative advantage for you guys as we work into the future. The next one that I put on the slides is the university's Health Science Center and the 6 colleges that go there. And I'm learning more about that as I go, as you can imagine, the people that I meet with and talk to while I'm here. But what a wonderful resource for a college of veterinary medicine, especially if you think about opportunities to collaborate in the basic biomedical sciences, okay? Whether it's basic research or translational research. And the opportunities to collaborate, to gain new perspectives, different perspectives, and to strengthen. So whether it's to collaborate with in the College of Human Medicine, public health, health professions, or anywhere else in the Health Science Center, I think it's a great strength for you here. As is the IFAS, the Institute for Food and Agricultural Science, right? The research, again, you guys know this better than I, but the research and the emphasis on research there for environmental health, ecosystem health, food safety, production animal health and disease, I think they're just in the resources that are available there for research, the resources available there for extension. How do we, as a land-grant institution, how do we make the knowledge that we hold in these hallowed halls accessible? Part of that is through the extension model, and how do we work? How does the college work successfully? But it I think is a great source of strength as you look at the future, and the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences there as well, and the strengths that they bring. The next strength, and I actually left out a strength that I needed to mention, and it's the research institutes. In that infrastructure that you have across campus, and the things that the opportunities that those bring to grow the research enterprise. I just met with the Emerging Pathogen Institute director, and it seems like what a great opportunity, what a great resource as we start to think about basic biomedical research, about One Health, about comparative medicine, just that model and the other research institutes as well, and the opportunities that they provide. The Florida Veterinary Medical Association, again, you've got one of the leading professional associations in the country in this state. The relationship you have there and the strength that the alumni and practitioners in that association bring to you, not only in informing the work that you do and helping to guide the work that you do in the practice that you do, the research you do, guiding the curricular developments, but also as a way to turn around and use for political gain, if you will. Anything that requires support, political support, either in the state government or in the federal government, requires advocacy. What a tremendous resource this is to build this. And frankly, the other thing in Michigan that we have, and I would hope that you have here or be able to develop, is a great relationship between the state association and your student body. Our state association works with our students, bringing current topics in, bringing panels of practitioners in, and talking about things that might fall between the cracks in the curriculum proper. And so I think it's a great resource again. Other things, Florida, I've titled it, the populations as resources. And both the people and the wonderful human population that you have here, and the diversity in the human population that you have is virtually unmatched across the country. So as we think about enhancing the diversity in the veterinary profession, what a better place to do it than in Florida. The animal populations that are here in the state, you know, whether it's the wildlife, the exotics, the pets, the sporting animals, horses, dogs, or the livestock, the dairy and beef populations. What a great resource from either the research side, the teaching side, or the clinical service side, all of the above. It just is unique. Mentioned livestock and dairy. It isn't just about the animals, it's about the industry itself, the industries themselves, and the partnerships that can be formed there, and the collaborations, and again, the strengths that can come from that. Strengths in support of informing the work that you do, but in support of trying to create creative ways, innovative ways to fund what you do. Okay. And the last one on this slide is the environment and the economy, and I see those as being strengths because of, you know, I think the obvious, the interface between the people, the environment, the agriculture, the animals, and the large and strong economy that you have here in the state of Florida. Key leadership attributes that I think are needed for this. I'm going to walk you through this kind of quickly. I can talk about this for a long time as well. But I think the key leadership attributes that are going to be necessary to lead the college into this envisioned future or some version of that is, first of all, the ability to lead people, to be able to work with your best and greatest resource, the faculty, staff, and students and alumni. Okay? Secondly, to lead the organization, to understand a bit about that, to come at that with a broad perspective, to be able to develop that shared vision, as I've already mentioned. To have a solid grasp of the academic enterprise, to know what it takes to be successful in academia. Okay? The ability to effectively engage and collaborate across a broad constituency, to build an environment of trust so creativity and innovation can flourish. And then to supplement those, to be able to, your leader needs to be able to communicate effectively, whether that's an oral presentation to a large group, whether it's to a small group presentation, whether it's one-on-one communication. It builds on self-awareness, but it also builds on the ability to listen effectively. It's about speaking, it's about writing, but it's about listening as well. Okay? And finally, the whole issue of managing relationships. This is a people business, and to be able to recognize the importance of those relationships, whether it's a collaboration across colleges or between two colleagues in the same department, the same lab, or the same part of the clinic, to manage those relationships because they're vital to our success and working together in the future. So the JL up there is me. So what do I bring to this game? I bring, I think, a very strong executive leadership experience. Okay? At the college level, I've led on the leadership team, College of Veterinary Medicine, very similar in size and scope to the one that you have here. My responsibilities there, as I mentioned, are for development of strategy and implementation strategy. We've had responsibility for developing budgetary options as we go through tough budgetary times, but with the idea that we have a mission, we have a vision, we need to align the budget with achieving that vision and mission. I had experience in managing the operations and the day-to-day business of the college. Had a lot of work and continued work in the specific area of diversity and inclusion, engagement with our communities across the state and across the country. And since the start of my academic career, active external engagement. So I think that all builds to effective executive leadership experience, not to mention the fact that I was on the executive committee of our state VMA for 5 years and was president for a year. So I think some very valuable executive leadership experience there as well. I do have a broad background and perspective. You've heard about the small town and the small farm background and the companion animals and the livestock there and the wildlife experiences. But as I've laid out my career, I think you can see the things that I've done. And they have been varied, all the way from the clinical sciences, working as a practitioner in a private practice, working with my colleagues in the large animal clinical science department and teaching in the clinic, working in the classroom, innovating and creating new methods of teaching and new courses in the preclinical curriculum across the board in academia. And so the next one is the history of collaboration. I mentioned that. I think that as we work forward in the future, we've got to collaborate. Strength comes through collaboration. You get those synergies in complementarities as you work together. And so I think from what you've heard me talk about, you can tell that this collaboration, first of all, involves the skill of leading teams, effectively facilitating and leading teams, communicating effectively, recognizing the importance of and maintaining and sustaining relationships over time. And I've done this both in the research setting, teaching setting, but also with industry and commodity groups across the course of my career, and with government and government agencies as well. I do have a strong academic experience. I've emphasized across the mission, across my career, scholarship across the mission. So scholarship to me means, yes, you've achieved research grants and you've published the results of your research, but you've also been creative and scholarly in your teaching enterprise. And so you're sharing that with the profession through the Journal of Veterinary Medical Education or some other journal. You're being creative in your clinical and innovative in your clinical enterprise, and you're working and producing material for the literature as well from the clinical. So I've emphasized scholarship across the mission. And the other thing, for better or worse, and I can say that for better or worse, I've had an active involvement in academic governance since early on as well. And that's one of those things that we can all say, yeah, we've been there, done that, and got the T-shirt, But it is important to understand how this business works. Okay. I believe I am an effective communicator. Look at my CV, see where I've been. You've heard me talk before. You're hearing me now. You've worked with me in small groups, many of you in large groups. But I think that that's an essential skill, and I don't want to just sit here and tell you that I'm the world's best listener. I work on it. I know how important it is. Sometimes I probably don't hear as well as I should, especially when it has to do with family members, perhaps. But it is important to me, and so it is a skill that I like to think I'm good at, but it's one that I continue to look at. I do value those relationships, know how important they are to our success as a community. And so in order to have those, to develop them, to nurture them over time, I think is vital. And the last one, well, I actually have two more. One is leadership as a discipline. Several years ago, I developed an interest in the skills that it takes to be an effective leader. I have taken the opportunity to reflect on my own skill set and develop my own leadership skills, but also have taken that to the workplace and have looked for opportunities not only to develop our leadership team and the leadership skills there, but also to develop our faculty, and have developed and offered many opportunities for leadership development for our faculty, but also our students, and guess what, across the profession, for our state association leadership development opportunities there, and through the AAVMC across academic veterinary medicine. So this is one of those passions of mine. And then speaking of passions, the last one on the slide is that I am passionate about veterinary medicine. And if you didn't pick that up so far today, I'll tell you the words. I am passionate about veterinary medicine. I look forward to an exciting future in the profession, wherever it is. Okay, and I think we have a bright profession as veterinarians and as an academic veterinary community. So why does it start here? Well, biomedical sciences is the foundation. We are scientists, right? We're biological scientists. So why does it start here? The biomedical sciences are here, and the innovations in biomedical sciences and the new information is being created here. And here I mean University of Florida, but I mean here in academic veterinary medicine in general. So creating the future does start here, because it starts here with the basic biomedical information and knowledge. It also goes on to the clinical sciences. It's where we're developing new information, new techniques, new methods, and we're testing out the information that we've learned in the first bullet. So why does it start here? Again, this is the place where we are innovating in clinical sciences and creating the future of veterinary practice. This is then the place where we create the future through the biomedical and clinical science scientists, okay? So it's the students. The students are the future of the profession, all right? And we've got them here, we're working with them, and through the work that we do with them, we are, in effect, creating the future of veterinary medicine. So through these three things, I think the information, the basic biomedical sciences, through the clinical sciences, and through creating the future, the people, the profession, it's why we in academic medicine are actually creating the future of the profession. I believe, as you've seen, that University of Florida College of Veterinary Medicine is well positioned to lead in this process. And you know what, to me it's a great time to be here. So with that, I take any questions that you've got. I'm back to the start here with Peggy and Polly. Any questions that you have, clarification or expound or refute? Or, yes?
We're recording this. Let me just, for people who aren't here, we're just going to ask you to ask your questions into the microphone. Sorry.
You mentioned the importance of developing identifying strategic priorities in the college, and obviously you've gone through that process many times at Michigan State University, but just taking that as that experience, which you know as a guide, what is your philosophy or what sort of approach do you take in trying to identify strategic priorities, and what do you see as the proper or appropriate role between administrators who are faculty, but they are administrators, and then the faculty who are just the faculty?
Yeah.
How does that process occur?
Well, you know, my philosophy is to do what works, okay? My philosophy is strategy is vital to the future, and whatever works for this organization at this point in your history to develop that shared vision, to engage people in the process, in really the business of pursuit of that vision is what we need to do. I don't mean that to be a duck. I actually even work as a consultant with private organizations and facilitate strategic planning. Same thing there. I want to do what's going to work for you and your organization at this point in time. And so we've done everything from a broad base, let's get everybody in the room and take 2 or 3 days to do it, and let's get all outside groups, the industries, the profession, and do that and see what we come out with, to a smaller room, just the leadership. And it depends on the organization, what's appropriate for that culture for that point in time, okay, and for what you already have. So the best answer that I can give you is that I want to listen to you guys and listen to you about what's going to be the best process. Maybe, you know, and a good example is, when Dean Brown came to Michigan State, right? He came in and new Dean, you know, you got to do the strategy thing, and that's right, so new Dean you do. Well, you know, we've kind of been through some broad-based, you know, all-inclusive processes in the past with Dean King. Faculty weren't ready to do that again, okay? Staff weren't there ready to do that again. So we did a more narrowly focused thing. It might be time for us to roll that out and do much more of a broad-based thing again. It all will involve listening to our faculty and staff and our stakeholders to see where we are. But so while, you know, at different points in time, different methods work, different cultures, different methods work, and so the short answer is, you know what, I would sit down and work with you guys, listen to you guys, and see where you are and what makes sense for you at this point in your history. Other questions?
You mentioned being involved in strategic planning and trying to get through some difficult economic times while trying to support the different missions. Could you give us a concrete example of things that you did to help maintain the research mission at Michigan during this time?
So one of the key things that we've done is look for ways to do exactly that. Research is vital to your mission here, I'm sure, vital to our mission. How do you maintain that in the future? So we've done everything to maintain and strengthen that through this downturn. One of the most effective things that we've done is we've been very successful, I think, in a relative sense, in our development, in our private fundraising. Okay, the funds that we have in our endowed funds, and using the proceeds from those to support even salaries in the interim, in the stretch between this tough budget to get us through, but to support pilot projects, so we can get some research data to get up and get out and be competitive for outside grants, to use those endowed funds for startup, to give a good startup package so that we can, in effect, recruit those research stars that are going to be our stars of the future. So I think one of the most effective things we did is we looked at, this is our business, this is our budget, these are our sources of funds. How can we use those in a progressive, a thoughtful way? How can we enhance those in this environment? And in fact, from our standpoint, even though the economy took a dive, we've been fortunate in Michigan that we've been very successful in continuing the growth of our fundraising through that economy, and it's helped us to sustain some of that. That's one example. You asked for one. There are others as well, but that's yeah. I guess that's the biggest thing then is to look at, are there positions that we can bridge funds to the future. So as we again look at end of careers and people winding down, how can we bridge funds, and we would use some of that in non-recurring funds from sources like endowments, but we've been able to argue effectively at Central Campus that these are non-recurring funds we need to bridge to the future to get past this gap, to maintain and to build our research strength. So a couple of specific examples.
So we're currently poised to review our full curricula. We also started working with increased student numbers. I was wondering if you could discuss a little bit your vision of veterinary curricula, of how to handle instructional design in the future, and use of technology.
Well, this is going to sound like a similar answer. I want to work with you guys to understand where you think the strengths are. I think we need to look for efficiencies. We need to look for ways to leverage technology in the classroom, leverage technology for distance learning, and there's some great innovations out there. We use it to the greatest effectiveness. But so we want to. And in that, we also want some input from outside as to how we're doing in the curriculum. What is it that we're doing well? Where are the gaps? What things can we be doing better? And to restructure the curriculum around that. As far as the increased student numbers, was that in your question? How do you deal with it? And so you look for ways for technology to help you there, perhaps. You sit down and you look at what your choice set is, and you brainstorm. I don't have an answer for you today. I think that it comes by working together and figuring out what the best idea is, and then let's figure out a way to make it work.
If you look at a lot of our faculty, there's a big discrepancy in ages. There's an older group and a very much younger group.
Yes.
And one of the hardest things in the clinical departments is how do you retain younger faculty with the lure of private practice that's out there. So what programs did you maybe put in place if that was something that you did in Michigan to help with faculty development for the future?
Well, one of our most effective recruiting tools that we need to all be using is called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Okay, and we're starting to use that effectively at Michigan State, to use that in our recruiting process, because with the increasing debt loads that our students are leaving our halls with, you can look at this program, and if you pursue an internship, for instance, at a public institution, residency at a public institution, and then follow on with a faculty position, 10 years after you're out of school, you can be debt-free. Okay? Tremendous recruiting tool, I think, and one that we're starting to use effectively, but one that we all need to be recognized as. And you know what? You can't match that in the private sector. Okay? The 10 years and done with the debt loads, it has to be extremely attractive. Right? So then how do you retain after 10 years? Well, you hope that after 10 years there's familiarity, there's some roots in the community, and that sort of thing. But, you know, and that's a different issue at that point in time. But I think the young faculty, this is, because we can't, there's no secret, we can't recruit dollar for dollar. Okay? The other thing that we do is emphasize the factors that you have, the community of scholars that you work with, the ability to participate in research programs, the opportunities to teach. Okay, try to minimize the amount of overhead committee work, those kind of things that aren't that attractive or fun that often. But try to emphasize those, and even to the point of saying, you know what, these in the right faculty appointment system, there's opportunity for not only tenure and job security, but also sabbatic leaves and such, and those things just don't happen in the private sector. So we need to look at what we do that's different, what we do that's better, work toward that, but better in some people's eyes could be seen as better, and use those as comparative advantage. But you know, one of the things that, again, I think is largely underutilized and we all need to look at is this loan repayment thing.
Where to go?
Yes.
I think we face many problems in veterinary medicine, and I think we're nearing a real crisis in the area called student debt. Certain organizations, certain wise men have suggested that the current system is not sustainable. Do you have any suggestions on how to alleviate the situation?
I absolutely do. And you know what, I've got in my briefcase here, I've got another hour-long presentation on just that I've given across the country and did most recently at Cornell on Saturday morning to a group of 80 veterinary students and to their faculty on Friday afternoon. So, yeah, it is an important issue. Okay, and it's one that if the trend continues, the trend in escalating debt with regard in relationship to starting salaries, if that trend continues, it will be a crisis. Today, there are very good options for repaying student debt, and students just to know that. One is the income-based repayment program, fantastic government program that's there. Another is the public service loan forgiveness program. Another is the veterinary medicine loan repayment program that's in the USDA, increasing funding behind that and increasing numbers of students being able to take advantage of that. So there are opportunities in the NIH and HRSA for loan repayments. So, but it isn't all government related. All right, there are other opportunities for our graduates. One of them is specialization. The salaries that are available in clinical specialties in the private sector, if that's what their interests are, then there are opportunities there, and those salaries will repay their student debt loads. The other thing is a great opportunity is practice ownership. We just need to talk with our students, find out where their interests are, where their skill sets are, where their passions lie, and help them steer toward the right pathways to repay their student loans. So I think that I agree 100%. We need to work on this. We need to lobby for ways to decrease the escalating cost of tuition, but at the same time, there are some good opportunities available today for our students. And on the AVMA website, you look at state-funded programs. There are 20 different states that have state-funded programs for helping repay student debt on the AVMA website. And Michigan has one that's not even on there. So there are other ones out there, I'm sure, that we just haven't really dug out yet. So I can do that, and I'm comfortable where I am today, saying, you know, I'm still okay going out to recruit the best and the brightest to the veterinary profession. All right. Yeah, we need to work at the same time in parallel to work toward the future, so that this mismatch, so these trend lines don't continue to diverge. But in the meantime, there are some good opportunities, good options out there. We just need to share the information. Thanks for asking that question.
We have time for one more question.
Can you give one or two examples of what you've seen as outstanding innovation in distance learning?
You know, outstanding innovations in distance learning. You know, I wish I could say we were ahead of that curve at Michigan State, but we aren't. We're probably solidly in the middle of the pack. So distance learning, You know, we're for instance, we're doing Polycon. We're sharing rounds between our remote dairy farm where we do a lot of teaching and our faculty on campus. Okay, so we're doing that. We're doing I think Adobe Connect to use to connect our necropsy rounds with our teaching hospital, because there's a 2 mile distance. I mean, for distance technology, it doesn't matter if it's 2 miles or if it's a halfway around the globe. Okay, so a couple of examples of what we're doing there. We have also developed a professional master's degree in food safety. Okay, this one is pretty innovative. It's a multidisciplinary master's degree. It's located in our large animal clinical science department, but it doesn't. It's a pro-MS non-master's thesis, non-thesis master's, but it doesn't require that you be a veterinarian. We have about 150 students in that at the present time across the food industry, across the country, around the world. Okay, and this is a program that can be self-paced, but it's up until now it's been all distance learning, with the exception of a capstone experience that we've required on campus. I think that we're going to work some way to go around that, but it's all taught through distance learning, online education. So again, with that, I think we're square in the middle of the pack at MSU. I think there's some great thoughts, great innovations. We do electronic capture of all of our lectures in the preclinical curriculum. Okay, and we use up until now we've used Camtasia. I think there's a different software that we're going to be using in the future. But you know, that's perhaps a valuable resource as well. As we think about that, can we take those lectures? Can we either repackage them or not? But can we make those accessible on the web for a fee, if you will? But for practitioners, for instance, who want to do some continuing education, who want to go back and review the endocrinology lecture series or the dermatology. So, you know, I think there's some things like that we can, that are the quote-unquote low-hanging fruit, things that we could do even better where we are there. For you guys, it depends on where you are and what you're doing, what the opportunities are, but there are at least a few ideas. You asked for a couple. Other questions? Well, again, I really appreciate the opportunity. It's a thrill to be here. Think about it. You know who I am now. If you have questions, call me, email me. Either way, it doesn't matter. I'd be happy to communicate with you. And I look forward to the rest of my visit here. So thank you.